The Eminence in Shadow, Season 2, Episode 5, aka Episode 25 overall, He Who Pulls the Strings. So in this one, we get a very hilarious battle, and we also get Sid, aka John Smith, doing some crazy things, and we also get some funny gags with the money. So we start off this episode at Shadow Garden's headquarters, where Alpha is basically talking to some of the other Shadow Garden members about Gettan and Garter and the major corporate alliance. She's basically aware that Gettan is the one actually in charge, and that Garter is nothing more than a figurehead, a public figurehead, I should say, and that they are aware that Gettan is going to be sending some Clover agents to attack the Mitsugoshi company. And Gamma arrives. She hears about this, and she basically asks Alpha to let her handle it. And Alpha's kind of confused at first, but Gamma just keeps insisting. And Alpha's like, all right, but you're going to take these two girls with you. And so we cut to Mitsugoshi's stock room, where three of Clover mercenary soldiers are sneaking in. It's Leaf 1, Leaf 2, Leaf 3. And they're basically just like goons. And they're like, we're looking for this elf lady. And that's when Gamma shows up, and she greets them. The two Shadow Guard members with her go and attack Leaf 2 and Leaf 3. Meanwhile, Gamma faces off against the leader, Leaf 1. And this is where just the hilariousness starts. So Leaf 1 is super cocky. He's the best of the best. No one has survived his attack. And so, like a ninja, he disappears, reappears above Gamma, and comes down with a brutal chop. He's just trying to knock her out, but he chops the hell out of her. And Gamma just grabs her head in pain and just kind of comically goes, ow, 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 ow. And Leaf 1 is confused. He's like, how the hell does she stay? How is she still standing from being chopped in the head by me? And Gamma basically goes completely normal again. And she just starts kind of talking about how she is able to identify Leaf 1 and what kind of style that he uses. And of course, Leaf 1 is a little bit worried. And he basically has this chainsaw blade come out of his hand. And he goes and he slashes at Gamma on top of her head. And once again, we get the comical reaction where Gamma grabs her head and, ow, 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 ow. And of course, Leaf 1's like, what the hell? She survived my chop. My chop didn't put her to sleep. My chainsaw broke and didn't do any damage to her, any physical damage. What the hell is going on? And then, Gamma just basically says, I know your fencing style. You're one of the best. I completely know your moves, but there's no way you're going to be able to stop me. I've been trained by the greatest master of all time. And Gamma pulls out her this sword, and she imbues it with magic. And she has a flashback to where Sid tells her her secret technique that Gamma's about to use, the best technique ever. And we just see Sid when he's young and he's bored, and he's like, Gamma, you have a lot of raw magical abilities, so just imbued your weapon with as much magic as you can, and just start slashing away, and just don't stop slashing. So he's just kind of giving this really lame kind of technique, and Gamma thinks it's the greatest thing ever. And so Gamma does that. But as she's charging at Leaf 1, who's shaking, literally shaking in his boots, she trips and she falls because it's Gamma. And Gamma trips and Gamma falls all the time. And she trips, she falls, and she busts her face and her nose is bleeding. And then she just kind of does this laugh as she looks at Leaf 1 and basically says, oh, so that was your grand plan all along, huh? You were just faking being scared, but you were using your techniques to knock me off balance. And Leaf 1 is just your face is bleeding. Your nose is bleeding. And it's just kind of funny because, no, Leaf 1 didn't do anything. Gamma just tripped and fell. She tripped over her own feet. But he basically says, I'm enough of this woman. I'm not going to deal with her anymore. I'm going to get the hell out of here. And that's when two sidekicks who are with Gamma show up, and they basically reveal that they have taken out Leaf 2 and Leaf 3. And so Leaf 1 rushes away. He starts jumping out the window, and Gamma grabs her sword, gets up again, and she prepares her ultimate technique. But as she's about to chase after Leaf 1, once again, she trips, she falls, she face plants, but her sword flies out of her hands, and it ends up stabbing Leaf 1 in the neck just as her magic sword explodes. So it kills Leaf 1. It rockets a huge hole in the Mitsugoshi company. And Gamma ends up killing Leaf 1. Of course, the rest of the Shadow Guard members that are around are like, holy crap, Gamma did it. And then Gamma, whose face is still ebbed in the ground, starts laughing. And she's like, what'd you think about that for my ultimate technique? I psyched him out. And then they're just like, your nose is bleeding. So, yeah, we don't know if she actually tripped on purpose that time or if she tripped for real. And then she just got lucky with the sword. Now she's trying to play it off. Either way, she ends up taking out Leaf 1, but she ends up destroying a lot of Mitsugoshi in the process. So Alpha is kind of regretting sending Gamma to go and handle this. Meanwhile, we cut to Alexia, who makes her appearance again. It's been a while since we've seen her. And Alexia is practicing her sword technique with Sid. And she beats him because Sid's in his mob disguise. And they basically go out, they grab some food, and Alexia is just kind of reminiscing about how everyone she's made an alliance with have kind of like dipped out. Princess Rose has just kind of upped and disappeared, and so she's kind of like, I need to get stronger. And then she just turns to Sid and tells him that he lived such a carefree life, and she wonders if he's going to be able to live the rest of his life being that carefree. And then that's when we cut to Sid in his John Smith disguise. I'm still laughing at that name. And he has a meeting with Yukime. And they're meeting on this train that's going around the lawless city. And this maid of Yukime shows up with a counterfeit bill and a real bill. And basically presents it to Yukime, and Yukime presents it to John Smith. And she basically explains how there's this kingdom with this king who kind of does a really crappy job, and how there's this abandoned mine on the outskirts of the kingdom, and that's where they're making the counterfeit bills. And that because the kingdom is kind of crappy and stuff, they're most likely not going to be checking out the abandoned mines. And so that's a safe place to be making these bills. And then she says, what do you think of the bills? Can you guess which one's real and which one's fake? And Sid just kind of, or I should say John Smith, just kind of looks at it. And then he hands it back to Yukime and basically explains that one of them is of crappier quality than the other. And then at the same time, John Smith and Yukime reveal which one they think is real and which one is fake. And John Smith says the one of higher quality is fake, and Yukime says the one of lower quality is fake. And so that's where this running gag comes, where nobody knows which one's fake and which one's not. John Smith basically says that you did such a good job of faking these bills that you made them better than the actual real ones. But is he telling the truth, or is John Smith doesn't know which one's real and which one's fake, and he's just trying to play this off? We don't know. We cut to Alpha, and Alpha basically finds out that these counterfeit bills have been going around. So they're counterfeit bills that belong to the major corporate alliance. And recently, the Mitsugoshi company has accepted those bills. And Alpha is kind of wondering what's going on. She's thinking at first that maybe it's the major corporate alliance who have been creating their own fake bills of their own currency so that they can flood the markets and basically crash the paper bills. And so if the paper bills crash, then that means that Mitsugoshi's currency will also crash, and people will go back to using coins and stuff like that instead of paper bills. And she's like, but if they did that, they would be hurting their own business first. So are they doing this, or is there someone else behind this? So she sends out Shadow Guard members to kind of figure this out. Meanwhile, we cut to Garter, the figurehead of the major corporate alliance, and he's talking to Gettan, the actual leader behind the major corporate alliance. And he tells Gettan about the fact that there's these counterfeit bills of the major corporate alliance. And he shows a fake bill and a real bill. And Gettan just kind of looks at that and he's like, which one's the fake? And Garter's like, I think it's, well, actually, I don't know. And so, yeah, once again, we had the running gag of nobody knowing which one's fake and which one's real. Garter also explains that the Clover people who were attacking the Mitsugoshi company haven't come back, and Gettan tells him to leave. And then Garter kind of reveals to us, he monologues what his plan is. And Gettan works for the Cult of Diablos, and the plan actually was to create fake bills of the major corporate alliance at some point, put them out there, and then crash the economy. But he's like, this plan is too early. Like, this is a plan that the Cult of Diablos had, but it wasn't supposed to happen yet. Because right now, the reason why Gettan is in charge of the major corporate alliance is because the major corporate alliance, a lot of these people have assets that belong to the Cult of Diablos. And Gettan needs to make sure that he gets those assets first, gives it to the Cult of Diablos, and then he's going to crash the economy because he doesn't give a crap about the major corporate alliance or Mitsugoshi or the economy in general. So that he wants to create all this chaos so that the Cult of Diablos can flourish, but he wants to make sure that he gets the assets that are hidden away somewhere by the major corporate alliance first. So once again, he's like, okay, so now we got to figure out where these fake bills are coming from. And then that's when we get Princess Rose, aka number 666, and she is with 664 and 665, and they are on top of the roof of this train that's going around the lawless city. And the train is holding all the fake contraband dollar bills. So they're going to try to stop the bills from getting into Midgar and stuff, as well as try to figure out who's behind this. We have a little bit of a moment where 664 is telling 666, Princess Rose, like, hey, I'm the one in charge of this mission. Do you understand that? And 666 is like, yeah, I know. And 664 is like, do you? Because you haven't been listening to me in the last few missions that we've done. And yeah, we basically get the impression that something is up with Rose. Like, she's not fully there. Like, there's something that's bothering her. And we also get a funny moment where 665 sneaks something into her mouth, and 664 catches her and is like, are you eating? I saw you just, put food in your mouth. So yeah, the two of them are like obsessed with food. But they go into the train. They realize that the train is completely empty, and they're trying to figure out, like, where is everybody? But then they're like, okay, well, this is carrying a bunch of contraband, so it makes sense that there's no one here, like no passengers. There's also no guards. What's going on? And that's when Rose notices, like, these almost invisible wires, and she tries to stop 664 and 665 from continuing to walk down the train cart. But they get captured and they get snagged by ropes, like these invisible wires. And it turns out that John Smith is there. And yeah, we just have this moment where he's basically just using these invisible wires. This is cool. I always like that ability, like the invisible wires. I don't know why, but like every time I see them, like the wires, the trends, like whatever it is, like I always find them cool. Like, you see them in a certain magical index. Basilisk is where, like, was it Basilisk? No, I'll probably say Inuyasha is where I first saw the invisible wires with I think her name was Yura, the spider lady with like, she uses like the hair. But you got Walter from Hellsing, Gen from Rurouni Kenshin. I always loved that ability and stuff, like the wire ability, and I always wish to see more of it. But I'm kind of rambling. But yeah, John Smith uses his wires. He captures 664, 665. Rose, 666, charges at John Smith and almost stabs him when he wraps her up too. And he's like, you noticed my wires. You thought that you'd be able to bypass it if you got in close to me. If you got like right up in my face, I wouldn't be able to use the wires on you. That was a smart move. Unfortunately, your technique isn't good enough for you to pull that off in a single stab. He wraps up Rose as well, and we get this fan servicey scene where we see all the girls like wrapped in these wires, and it's kind of like pushing out their boobs and stuff. And then he tosses them out of the train, and the train just continues down the road. And Princess Rose, number 666, is upset. She's about to go after the train when 664 calls her and tells her to stop. She's like, there's no point in going after the train. If we did, John Smith would just beat us again. Instead, we got to go back and inform Alpha about this new development. And then They start heading back, and that's when we see 666 squeezing her sword, and she's like upset, mostly at herself, and she's like, I'm too weak. I need to get stronger. And that's basically how the episode ends. So I like this one a lot. This one, we got to see Sid just being awesome as John Smith with the wires. It's a really quick battle. It's super one-sided. He basically captured 664 and 665 immediately. And then 666, she maneuvers through the wires, but right before she can get him, he wraps her up too and just tosses him out. So quick battle, but like I said, I just love the whole wire ability. So I thought it was cool to see that. We had this, like, the funny gag where no one knows which Bill is real or not. That was kind of funny as well. And then we just got the coolest fight ever. Well, not the coolest fight, but the funniest fight. I would say it's probably the funniest fight that we've had in this series so far with Gamma fighting Leaf 1. It was just hilarious, where it's just basically Gamma getting hit in the head, boasting about how she's able to see through Leaf 1's techniques, and then just falling flat on her face twice. The second time actually being the one that delivers the killing blow to Leaf 1. And we don't know if that was an accident or if she actually did that on purpose. And it's just hilarious, Gamma, just with like her stupid little laugh and stuff. Like, I love Gamma. She's hilarious. And yeah, just the fact that in this arc, the two greatest opponents to Mitsugoshi, the one that's doing the most, like, not the two greatest opponents, the two greatest threats to Mitsugoshi right now is John Smith, aka Sid, aka Shadow, aka the leader of Shadow Garden, and Gamma herself. And I say Gamma because in her fight, she was destroying Mitsugoshi, like the building. Her face planting, her throwing out her magic everywhere was just completely destroying the building. So, yeah, Shadow Garden's two greatest threats in this episode were two members of their own group, one being the leader. I don't know, I just found that hilarious. But yeah, I absolutely just love this episode. This was fantastic. But there you go. There is Eminence and Shadow, Season 2, Episode 5, aka Episode 25 overall, He Who Pulls the Strings. I hope you enjoy, and I hope to see you next time. Take care. Later.